concerning, it had a couple of links in it. It had a link to the TEA. Yesterday, TEA issued some guidance and policy suggestions to school districts concerning several different things, but one of them was concerning your library books. And if you look at that link of the TEA, it referenced local policy EF, which I've given you a copy of Greenville's local policy EF, and just wanted to highlight a few things that you should probably be thinking about. It says, talks about instructional resources, and it says ultimate authority for determining and approving the curriculum and instructional program of the district lies with the board. So whether you agree with it or whether you like it, you're in charge of approving library books. And it defines instructional resources right there as library acquisitions. So page 2, there's down at the bottom, it says, any district resident may formally challenge an instructional resource, that could be a library book, used in the district's educational program on the basis of appropriateness. And then it goes on the next page, there's four things that, considerations, and the first three talk about the principal. If a district citizen comes to a principal and has a complaint about a library book, the principal should basically explain and try to educate this person. And then the fourth one is the person can make a formal complaint. So I'm a little bit disappointed that there's not a fifth option that says the principal might agree with the parent and that the book is inappropriate and we're going to pull it off the library shelf. But that's not in the policy as an option. I wish it were. Because maybe the principal would agree, maybe it is inappropriate. It's not always just a matter of let's educate people, we're smarter than them, they just don't know it. But look at that highlight about if they decide to make a formal complaint, it says there'll be a form to fill out. So I hope you got a form. If anybody comes with a formal complaint, I hope the principals have a form they can hand the person to fill out. To me, that'd be the last resort. I hope no one would fill out a formal complaint, and I hope there would be a way to impress upon the principals, please resolve this if you can without it becoming a formal complaint. But if it is a formal complaint, look at what has to be done. The principal has to appoint a reconsideration committee, and that committee, all members of that committee have to review that book in its entirety. So these are just some things that you might want to be aware of. You might want to bone up on this because, as you know, it is kind of a hot button issue statewide. It's probably going to come down to the local level before you know it. Thank you.
Action and discussion items. Consider approval for modified schedule assessment testing days.
When we ask for public comment, and we're not asking for board comments or anything?
Y'all want to say something?
I did.
Okay, go ahead.
Stop. I was just making sure. I went last week on a field trip to the Greenville ISD and met with the director of facilities over there. His name is Ken Loper. And I just wanted to, they've done several bonds already, and they're actually done with who we're doing it with. And so I kind of want to look at their middle schools and their last one in 2017. He's gone through 3 or 4 now in Tyler, so he was really in 2004 was his first bond, and that first bond, he said he knew nothing about it, the process, so, that first one, and I know this is kind of like putting the cart before the horse, but I wanted to kind of get my mind around some of the aspects of the bond in this seat, and like what happened. I love their schools, the middle school is amazing, and one of the things he said was when they did the specs for the buildings, or the middle school specifically, that they sat down with the director of each department, so art and like English and all those, and then they were the ones that came up with that specs. And there was a couple board members on there, on that committee and that so forth, but I thought that was interesting. I know that he forwarded, or his name John forwarded you the specs for that. And then he said there was a couple of things around the bond, like if it were to be approved, things that he learned as far as money goes. And I mean, that's definitely not something maybe for now, but there were several things where there's money in the bond that gets held by the construction company. However, we can request that the money get put into our contingency fund, which there's a whole lot of there's 3 different ways to do that. And so maybe if it gets passed, I asked if he'd be open to other people going out there, if you guys want to go out there and talk to him, or maybe Dr. Anderson wants to, if he weren't, I think he was an amazing guy. He was so nice, so open. He took us to his middle school and his high school that they just did, which is, the high school is just beautiful. One of the things about most schools is that they have line of sight. So like if they step out a hallway, it goes all the way down. So if the teacher steps out and looks either way, she can see all the way down. And then the hallways were 12 feet wide, which is pretty big, but it's good for middle school. I mean, just with the passing period. Anyway, that was it. And I have this number, and you guys want it.
Before we passed the last one, several of us went to Tyler and we some schools. We also went to South Lake and some schools. And the question that I always ask at the end is like, well, I know that you're in this building. What would you do differently? And we got some different
He
what
did
they
say,
liked and what they would change.
the one thing he said about the middle school was, those community space, and what does he call them? The spaces, collaborative spaces. The middle school does not use them. They don't, it's the kids and the age group they're at, the teachers don't trust that they're in the hallway doing what they're supposed to do. So if we have that choice to take, if there's any collaborative spaces, we don't do those. Yeah.
Is your middle school 6, 7, then?
The Tyler one?
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Aren't they in the law enforcement district?
What?
Aren't they having the law enforcement?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, we're two buildings.
I saw signs for it the other day when we were down there.
Yeah, but it's like 0 impact to their
Yeah.
tax rate, so it's probably a cloud issue. They, I enjoyed it. It was very informative for me.
Okay, so I think it's been 5 months ago when this quit paying deed request had come from the city. And we were told at that time that was the only city we owned, only partial we owned, and that this would be the only time, that would be the only time they would ask us to come back and do this. However, there is a property on Stanford that we do have still in our name that is up for sale, and the city would like for us to approve it. And so we got on tonight's agenda so we could go ahead and allow them to be able to go through the sale. So it's no different than before. It's a part of the property that was part of the beautification, and so And again, I've been told this is the last property that we're going to ask for this, but, I couldn't tell you the exact address. Is that in front of you? Is it on the cover sheet? It's, I'm gonna tell you, here it is. 2220 Sale Street. 2220 Sale Street. It's .2296 acres, it's lot 4, B as a boy, block 522, in part of the original town of Greenville. So I just need a motion, please, ma'am.
I move that the board approve the request from the city of Greenville to execute a quit claim deed from the district to the city to facilitate resale of property owned in trust by the district pursuant to a delinquent tax foreclosure as presented.
I'll say.
Okay, we have a motion by Mike, and a second by Roger. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, no. Motion carries unanimously. Next week, would you consider purchasing over $50,000 for security cameras?
Mr. Falk will present this.
President Stafford, Superintendent Booth, members of the board. Tonight, I'd like to present a need for the high school. We currently have 4 camera servers that run all the cameras at the high school. There's about 137 cameras at that campus, and 2 of those servers have already failed, and the other 2 are kind of on their way out as well. And when I went to our security vendor to get quotes for the servers, 2 of those servers are about $86,000. So my next question to them was, well, how much is it to replace the system? Because we know that all of those cameras are now 6 to 7 years old and need to be replaced. And so they came back with a quote to replace the entire system with cameras that are now cloud cameras, so they don't have servers, so there's no additional equipment to have to replace every few years. The reason why these servers have to be replaced is because they have hard drives in them that are constantly storing data. And so about every 5 to 7 years, those drives would have to be replaced. And the security, not our vendor, but the actual manufacturer, after about 7 years, they say, sorry, we're not giving you any more drives, you need to replace the whole unit. And so you're looking at a 7-year replacement on these servers. So it's better overall to move away from that type of architecture and allow for the cloud architecture to be utilized. These cameras store 30 days worth of footage and audio into the camera itself. So you don't have a single point of failure for the entire system. Each camera kind of works independently, and they can be viewed by campus administrators and security basically through a web portal. That system also allows them to do more specific searches. So for example, our current system, if we're looking for someone on campus, someone has to sit down at a computer and go through all 137 cameras and find that person. It takes a very long time on that campus. This system has an algorithm that runs so that if you can identify an article of clothing, you can say, find the person with the red hat, it'll search all those cameras and it'll pull up all the cameras with the person with the red hat. You can do that with cars, license plates, anything that it can get in field of view, and it will pull all those cameras so that it drastically reduces the search time if you're trying to find something going on campus. And so there's some benefits aside from just getting new equipment. It's a better system overall. The cameras are higher quality, and the current cameras would also, if we did the server route, over the next 3 to 5 years, we would be replacing all those cameras anyway. So the comparison with that is instead of just replacing all the servers and slowly replacing the cameras, we would replace the entire system at the high school with the cloud-based cameras. We would retain the 2 servers that are functioning, and we would utilize them basically as spares in case some other campus failed. We would have a quick swap for them. And then all of the cameras that are up there that are still operational, we would continue to house as replacements, mostly because right now the access cameras, which is what we use, are about 6 to 8 month back order. And so if we had a few that failed on campus, instead of buying cameras that go with a whole new system, we would just have some that we could swap out, and we would get kind of the most bang for our buck in just having those until they completely are not usable. This is going to allow better access for our staff, like I mentioned, the faster search capabilities, better cameras. The bigger part is this system is in stock right now and can be ramped up to be replaced quickly. The funds for this project are already within the budget to do this, and the cost to replace the entire system is just over $150,000. So, and that is with a 3-year license on the cameras. What that does is basically it's your licenses to run, which we have to utilize the cameras, but it also covers under warranty for 3 years. So right now, if a camera fails, our contract covers them to come out and replace it for us or to troubleshoot it for us, but it does not cover the replacement of the camera. On this new system, it would be covered under this warranty for 3 years, and then it's extendable. So each year that we extend up to 10 years, these cameras are covered. So as long as we're staying with this camera system, then those cameras are covered under that particular agreement. And so that's kind of what we're proposing instead of just changing the servers out. And I'm taking.
So 2 things. Even though you said 2 servers are failed, our cameras are still functioning at the high school. I want to say that.
Yes.
And secondly, this would be the system that we proposed for if the bond were to pass for the 2 campuses. So that would be another thing. And then we could use the cameras currently in use at the high school and the 2 campuses if the bond were to pass to backfill until we go cloud-based for all cameras.
Yes, and there's some benefits to doing that. One of them being the search, like I told you, specifically thinking about high school and middle school having the most cameras. Being able to search there rapidly is a big help to our security officers and administration. But then also, once you have more systems in that, all of them are searched. So if you have someone go from one campus to the next, still got that same red hat on, you hit find the red hat, it's going to pull from all locations as well. So there's more integration when you start thinking about cars, license plates, all that, where you can track campus to campus if you need it. I saw this demonstrated by a company who uses this. It's a car dealership, and they were using it to track when people were test driving cars. They would know when that car left and when it came back, and logging the hours and that sort of thing. And so I've seen this system in action, and it was very impressive, the things that they could search. I'm just using an article of clothing as an example, but they could search many different things on this system to help resolve a problem or find out what's going on quicker.
Can they utilize, facial recognition and upload other pictures specifically on search?
It does facial recognition, but it's not like tied to an identity. So it's not recognizing you. What it's doing is if I have a facial feature, for example, if I say blue eyes or whatever, they even showed me they put a mask on someone and it was able to still detect the same person through the mask because it's using more of like the eyes and and so it does have some of that, but it's not tied to a specific person or identity within that system because it's not storing any identity information. It's just the camera footage that it's utilizing.
Would we install this after the school's out? Is that the plan or what?
I would have them start replacing them as soon as they could. They're pretty good about, that company is the company we use for all of our cameras now, as well as doors, any of our security stuff. And they're pretty good about being sort of discreet, being able to come in and work in areas and know when they can be there, when they can't, that sort of thing. So we would try to utilize them as quick as possible to get it done. Like Ms. Booth said, it is running. There's no cameras that are like out. But if we lose one more hard drive, then they would all be down. And so, or at least a large section of them would be down. And so with those servers going on 7 years old, and knowing that the company's not going to replace any drives for us anymore, it's really sort of just a matter of time before that will happen with those drives.
Are they rotating drives?
They are. They're spin disk. Yep.
So how long is that $150,000 for purchasing the system?
Yes.
Does that mean that nothing will go wrong with it for the next 7 years?
Well, the $150,000, a portion of that is covering the labor, so that's the installation. The actual units themselves is in that, but then another portion of that money is going for 3 years of warranty and licensing. We pay licensing now for our current camera system. We have to pay it every year, and so this is just basically that licensing, but rolled into 3 years worth. But with this company, this manufacturer, I should say, because it's the same company we're going through, but the manufacturer warranties their cameras so long as you're paying that license, which is kind of arbitrary because you have to pay it. So if you're going to run the cameras, you have to pay for the license for it. And so pretty much they guarantee the cameras for 10 years, as long as you continue to pay the annual fee to run them. And so anytime during that, if something was to happen, we would call the company, they would come out, replace the camera free of charge. We wouldn't pay for the camera or any of the other work because we're already paying without our maintenance agreement with them.
So that maintenance is included in the $150,000 and whatever.
The maintenance agreement is a separate agreement that we have with ESST, and that covers not just cameras. It's our door fob actuators, all the security that goes along with the front doors, the side doors, any of that kind of stuff, the fob readers. That was all purchased back in 2014, 2015, and we haven't, as a district, have not paid on that since then because it was paid all at once. And so now we're coming up to where it's time for those items to be renewed. And that's actually where the funds for this came from, was that the renewal cost for that maintenance agreement is paying for a big portion of this. And then the maintenance agreement actually doesn't expire until August. And so that's kind of where how that's working out with the funding of it as well.
What do we pay yearly? What do we pay yearly for
The agreement. So we're paying, when we paid before, it's been a few years, but when we did that, we paid using remaining bond funds, and the board voted to pay out for 3 years. So we haven't really ever made a payment aside from bond. This would have been our first payment. The first quote I got was $79,000 a year. That's to cover basically right at 500 cameras, all the door fob readers, and there's like actuators and equipment inside those doors that make everything work. So it was all that, as well as the camera licensing with it, was all kind of in there. After this quote, and that was kind of my question with them, was okay, so how's that going to affect our pricing? And we've been sort of negotiating the pricing on it, because this system will make it easier for them as well, because they're not going to have to fight and haggle with the vendors. And so it's looking like that's going to drop about 10 to 15,000 when the final quote comes back for that. So we're looking around probably 60,000 as a worst case on that per year, and that will cover the current, basically all the current equipment as well as anything that would happen with these cameras, as far as the labor to come do anything with that. And then the current servers. And that's been the negotiation part, because they know these servers are gonna fail. And so that's why we wanna keep a couple of them as spares, so that I'm trying to offset some of that company's risk to lower the overall price. Because one server, based on the price, one server is about $40,000. And so he knows that if he does like a 5-year agreement, and he's covering all 10 of these servers, then as they start to go, he's gonna lose money. And so we've been negotiating on the price. It's looking like it's gonna be right around $60,000 to cover all of that.
Are we looking into changing all the schools out to a cloud system?
I think eventually that's just the way a lot of the infrastructure is going. For now, our primary focus would be the campuses that have the most cameras, just because they're hard to search. In talking with the campus administration and security teams, it's just hard to go through and look through that many cameras. So we would focus on high school, middle school first, and then branch out to the probably T6 and then the other elementaries based on cameras, and also looking at how old the servers are that's running them. They replaced, so like I said, we spent $300,000 on that maintenance agreement to extend it up to till now. And in that time period, they replaced 4 servers. So they took a pretty big hit at $40,000 a pop just on the servers themselves. And so we would look at which servers are the oldest, and those would likely be the campuses that we would replace first after doing high school and middle school.
I'm assuming the high school is the most expensive. What is the middle school, like $100,000 or?
The middle school, well, hopefully we wouldn't have to do that through this type of project, and that can be rolled in with like a bond, because that would be a new facility, a new infrastructure set up there. But yes, it would probably be anywhere from $75,000 to $100,000 to do the middle school. They don't have as many servers, but really it's going off camera count, and these cameras are better. They have a